So it was this company called Elsevier. They had a little local difficulty, and Peter's going to talk to us about it.
Okay. Okay, I thought I've been involved in the bot chasing aspects of things at Elsevier for about 1.5 years, and I've become very involved for a variety of internal reasons. So I thought I would share some of the experiences I've had. I wasn't aware of a lot of this activity until about 18 months ago, so I missed the whole initial part of the Sci-Hub situation. But what I thought I'd talk today about is the problem and how we fix it, or how can we fix it. And I think we all know about Sci-Hub. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that. I think we know what the issues are. There's been a lot of good writing about that lately, and some bad writing as well, or at least some things that we may not agree with in the publishing industry. I do find it ironic, if you drill down a little bit on this page, you'll get challenged with a CAPTCHA challenge if you want to search Sci-Hub, so that's a credible irony. But you know, there's also more ways for people to steal our content and to sell passwords. I found some sites where they're selling passwords. Here they're selling university passwords. To the VPNs and to the Easy Proxy. This one was showing Rice, University of Regina, and NYU, my alma mater. And then there are these organizations that are selling passwords, usernames and passwords to our content. So Up to Date from Kluwer, Wolters Kluwer, Science Direct, Clinical Key to Elsevier products, but also interestingly, the Hinari passwords, so that's Research for Life, where we're offering, many of the publishers are offering our content at no cost to underdeveloped countries, and somehow they're getting hold of passwords for Hinari access, and actually I engaged with some people there to let them know about that, and we're actively involved in trying to do some more investigation there. This is just one of these sites. There was one that came through recently. Emails were sent to various customers, and they let me know about different sites offering to sell content from all publishers for low amounts of money. And then there's more. Some of my colleagues in our life sciences group started to do some research and of crawling on some of our database products, and found these sites and many, many more in China. I think there was 20 or 25 sites. So how does it happen? Well, there's some very sophisticated phishing going on, and what we have here are 2 examples that I was sent by customers. And I thought what was really interesting here was that at the, this is the Ludwig-Maximilian University in Munich, they actually had the chutzpah to put a copyright notice in the IT department. So, you know, unfortunately, people are not smart enough to know that this would never happen that an IT department would never do something like this, and they think it's legit. It definitely looks legit, and they give their usernames and passwords. So these were 2 that I got sent as a result of some conversations on the Easy Proxy listserv a while back. So, sorry for this big slide, this very text-heavy slide, but I thought that it would be interesting to share a few observations. We all know about Sci-Hub. I'm not sure that Sci-Hub is the main source of a lot of the activity today. I could be totally wrong, because I just don't have those insights. I'm not able to capture those insights when I do my analysis. But a number of customers have shared with me the IPs that were used to breach their easy proxies, and most of those IPs are from China, and some have been from Iran and some from former Soviet Union states or the CIS. Sometimes it'll come from Africa, sometimes from Latin America, but mainly I would say China. And there was a couple of us, we talked to another publisher the other day who shared with us that they had had an attack from Belarus, and we had something very similar in the last 2 months. I don't know if any of the publishers here experienced that as well, but that was a pretty massive attack that came through. 90% of the incidents, this is my interpretation. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but my feeling is that 90% of the incidents are generated by unaffiliated users who've gained access to a university network for the purposes of stealing content. In my experience, we see this before the customer does. EasyProxy has mechanisms for flagging extraordinary usage, but it's difficult for customers to configure it since each provider has different rules for what constitutes extraordinary downloading. I did talk to the University of Toronto recently. They seem to have very, very good filters in place on their EasyProxy. Other schools have nothing. Other schools don't know. They think, well, it's my proxy, so the usage should be high, when really, in my case at least, we're reporting on activity that sets off alerts. And as I said, it's a game of whack-a-mole to some extent, because we're actually seeing the activity after it happens. In my experience, most customers are very responsive, but they're not necessarily very quick in their ability to put a stop to it or to locate where the activity is coming from. And Rick, you may have some insight into that, but I think different schools have different technology setups and have people who are more or less sophisticated about tracking this information down. Some customers, well, that relates to the last one, do not have good IT support and are not able to locate the source of the crawling. Some don't have active logging on their systems, and some have claimed there can be a privacy issue by digging too deeply. Once a username is blocked, others are used, therefore it's often very difficult to stop the malicious activity. And some customers seem to be very prone to attack. The bad guys know that they have large collections, and they start going after them, and then they also are able to exploit vulnerabilities that they have. But of course, there are other major libraries that I never see any anomalous activity from. So it's a mixed bag. And customers are not averse to our blocking an IP range, provided we've given them notice and asked that they investigate it first, which is, of course, understandable. So what's the routine that I do? I have a daily reporting system where I see activity that raises my concern. I'm able to take a deep dive into it and see more about the activity, and that really helps me understand whether it's crawling by what I think are going to be malicious users based upon what they're crawling, what the level of activity is, what the types of journal or the variety of journals that they're crawling. That gives me hints about what's going on, and then I have a contact with the customer, including the salespeople in that, because they're the owners of the relationship with the account. But that we interact with the customers in that way, and then in many cases, have developed personal relationships with the customers that we unfortunately have to deal with more than once through not necessarily any fault of their own, just because of their vulnerabilities. And the other thing is that we are looking at how do we catch this in real time, and what kind of tools can we put in place to slow down the activity, such as capture challenges and other types of blocking, blacklisting, penalty boxing, etc. And then finally, you know, what do we do as an industry and as a community? The publishing industry, but it's also, I think, important to include our customers, and OCLC is also obviously very key, since they're the publisher of the most important proxy service. There is it's my observation, after having done this for a while and participating in some conversations, that we, as an industry, we haven't really been organized enough. There's talk and there's interest in doing something about it, but then, you know, getting the right people in the room at the right time to try to take some proactive steps hasn't necessarily been that easy, though. Any of you who were at the STM conference 2 months ago will know that the STM board has decided to put together a team to address this, and then that will be I believe it will be a tripartite approach where customers are involved, publishers are involved, in OCLC. And I think that, you know, one of the things that maybe, if we have time in the Q&A, is, you know, just new methods of access and entitlement, because, as one of my colleagues commented, you know, we talk a lot about IP authentication, but the fact is that that's not really authentication. We just open up our content to the IP ranges that our customers say are theirs, and then anybody who is in that IP range can get access. And anybody who hacks into that IP range or is able to steal a credential is then able to get access to content. So I think that there needs to be a discussion about, well, what can we do to strengthen authentication without impeding the access of the people who use the content in a legitimate fashion, because, of course, academics need to share that content. Librarians need to share the content with their communities that they're licensing. So it is a very, I think, there are no real easy answers, and I don't think we can be incredibly draconian about it. But at the same time, I think that we need to take much stronger steps to, you know, block out the bad guys, as I call them. So no fishing allowed.